We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have an interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all of these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Family, it is once again time for IMHO Talk Show. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we surely appreciate it. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, back for another one. We got a great show lined up for y'all, by the way. Got to make sure that everybody is live and in full effect and ready to do this with us. And, I got a special guest on with me right about now as well to help us kick off today's show, because you've probably been seeing in your 101 Jams info, all the promo and whatnot going on. We are just delighted to be able to have a fresh new morning show to bring to you. So that's why I am joined right now by none other than my good friend, Dr. Rovinia Brock. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It is such a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, indeed. Likewise. So, want to let the folks know that we're going to be chatting more with you in just a sec about this new endeavor that you have with WVAI 101 Jams, the Dr. Ro Morning Show. It has a nice ring to it.
I like the ring, right?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But before we get to that, I want everybody to know, stay tuned, because we got a jam-packed show for y'all. We're going to be joined by none other than Auntie Jess, Jessica A. Harris, and all the education that she does through mentoring and mental health and all that good stuff. And also, we're going to be joined by young brother doing big things. He's a UVA student, and he is the leader of the Black Economic Empowerment Society. And yours truly and some other community folks are going to be joining them for their summit next weekend. Continue to empower, speak truth to power, and and to encourage wealth, right? Because I think Dr. Ro would agree with me, the old proverb, a rich man is one with knowledge, happiness, and health.
Absolutely.
That's right. And we also going to be joined by our great supporters today. From the Jefferson School Foundation. You all have been hearing us mention them and plug them. They are supporters of 101 Jams, in my humble opinion. And want everybody to learn more about that, because I'm sure you've heard the name, but we want to make sure that everybody's clear on what the Jefferson School City Center and Foundation has to offer, because it's more than the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center. A lot of people are very, very familiar with that entity, and they do great work. But the Jefferson School Foundation, the landlords, if you will, of that city center building, going to be here as well to talk, about all of the tenants. And one thing we plan to do is to have multiple of the tenants on here in the near future to let the community know all of the great resources that's there. But like I said, without further ado, we are going to be joined by none other than world-renowned self-help healthcare guru. I mean, she's like so much, Dr. Rovinia Brock, and talking about the new morning show, Dr. Ro Morning Show. And so IMHO family, tell a friend, y'all know how to reach us. IMHO Talk Show and WVAI 101 Jams on all of your streaming platforms. It's a show you don't want to miss. I'm trying to tell you. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, IMHO Talk Show. We'll be right back with none other the 101 Jams new morning show host, Dr. Rose. Stay tuned.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Back like we never left. I am HO Talk Show. Tell a friend, y'all. Tried to told you, see, and as soon as somebody said that they didn't know about the new 101 Jams Mormon show, I'm blaming y'all, fam. I'm gonna blame y'all because you can't say that we didn't do our due diligence up in here. And like I said, if you just joined us, we are joined by none other than our good friend Dr. Rose, Dr. Rovinia Brock, and we've had her on before, as some of y'all should remember. And if you missed it, go on our YouTube channel. You can find that great discussion with her about all the work and her career up until this point. But so happy to have her join us as WVAI 101 Jams family as well. So Dr. Rowe, you know what? Without further ado, I'm going to kick it to you, and you kind of set things off and just let the people know what to come to expect and when with the Dr. Rowe Morning Show.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you. I thank you for having me on in my humble opinion today, the voice for community action. So I want to thank you for that, and I also would like to thank everybody who's tuning in because to your point, Charles, you could have been anywhere, but you chose instead to spend this time with us. So gratitude for all of that, for your participation. So I am excited. I am grateful. I can't use any more explainers. That could go on forever, but just know that the excitement runs through my entire body that I am joining the ranks of 1013 jams, 101.3 jams for the Dr. Rowe Morning Show. You were very instrumental in making this happen, so I want to thank you, Charles.
Welcome. My
But
pleasure.
yeah, what we're doing with this show is you bring community action, politics, and current events and everything of interest to the community. We will bring you health. We will bring you health information, physical and mental health information.
Okay.
We're going to bring you wellness. We're going to bring you love, laughter. We're going to talk relationships. There's a lot that we have to share with you that we think will help to make your life better. And that's really why I'm here. I'm here to give you information and to challenge you to do those things for yourself that you may have left undone so that you can get on with the business of living the life that you crave. We are here. We are your one-stop stop for your health, wellness, relationships, and to help you to just get your life together in a way that perhaps you never have before.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, I think you sold it. But for those who may not be that familiar with you, I can let them know everythingrow.com. They can see a whole lot of what's going on. But let us know though what led you to this though. Where because of course you're a world-renowned speaker. But when it comes to the desire to doing a morning show, I know that you just gave the background and the detail of what people can come to expect from the show. But my question is why?
Why? Because I wake up to help. I mean, this is my calling. I've been doing this work for a lot of years. And I'll just say it. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've been doing it for a little bit more than 30 years. So I wake up to do this. This is my calling. My background is nutrition and broadcast journalism. So this is what I've come to do. I've done it for many years. I had a talk show on Jazz 90 in Washington D.C., where I'm from. I hosted Heart and Soul on BET. I was a medical correspondent for BET News. I was the nutrition coach to the Oz Show, to Sherry Shepherd on The View, to Anderson Cooper's talk show, Meredith Vieira's talk show, and I have been a go-to resource for people in morning shows. for syndication. So the Today Show, CBS This Morning, and GMA. So I've been around doing this work for a very long time.
And that's a resume right there.
Yeah, it's a very long time. Thank you, Razor.
Yeah,
So,
how you doing this morning?
I'm outstanding. I'm outstanding. So,
Yes, indeed. Like I had to drop a bomb on that. Like I had to do the Jamaican air horn and everything. You know,
blood
you know,
fire.
Talk your talk, Dr. Let them know they, that they ain't, they're not dealing with a rookie.
Yes. Sir.
No, I'm definitely not a rookie. I am a professional, and I have been dedicated to the cause of making folks, helping people to get healthy for over 30 years.
That's right.
And I started. I'm from here. My roots are here, and my family is from here. So I started wanting to help my family, wanting to help the people in my household, and then that morphed to wanting to help my community, and that morphed to wanting to help my country, because I got the call, to do it on those platforms. So I say all that to say I'm from a long line of country people, people who come from the country right here, and my family's eating habits were deplorable, and many family members paid for that. I come from a juke joint mama. My mama ran a juke joint in the 50s and 60s here, and I was in that juke joint when I could be dancing in the midnight hour.
What was the name of it?
It was called the Brock Lewis Recreation Center. Now she turned it into yeah, wasn't that highfalutin for a juke joint? Lady, you run a juke joint, okay? But it was the Brock Lewis Recreation Center. And on Friday and Saturday nights, this is where Black folks could go to let their hair down when they couldn't get in other places.
So Razor, aka the Elks Lodge.
AKA the X Lodge.
Yes.
AKA Miss in the future gonna be giving everybody the health news that they need.
That's right.
She's in training way back then. Shout out to Mom.
Yes.
That's right. So Dr. Rowe, what's the landscape that you want to set or even change when it comes to this morning show, right? Because there's so many places that people could tune in. And in fact, the matter is, like, there's so many folks who could have been tapped, right, or could have been accepted to do this morning show. Like, so when you look at the morning show landscape, right, like, what's the lasting impact that you're looking to have?
I mean, I'm really looking to help people to improve their quality of life, right? So there are a lot of things that we could talk about, but we're going to talk. And here's the other thing: it's not just going to be us. And when I say us, Razor is a part of this show, right? So it's the two of us. But he is a part of this show. He is the other voice on this show. But this isn't just about us. This is really about them. And when I say them, I mean everyone listening. This is your show. This is going to be your show. We are doing this show for you, and we're going to give you the opportunity to chime in, to tell us what you want. We're going to give you the opportunity to shout your crews out, whether it's your partner, somebody at work. If you want to propose to somebody, we're going to give you a place to do that too.
Hey, Charles. If I may,
Dr.
Rowe, let me give you a flowers here real quick. Let me give her a flowers, because as much as her resume is extensive, I haven't met a more humble person in my life. And the thing that got me about it, right, is that initially I was like number 3 for the people that could be on the show with her.
Okay.
For me, that was inspiring, because that's the number of God. So other people the way I looked at it was other people had to be weeded out for me to be able to be in the place that I needed to be to have growth. And the main thing that she made sure that I understood was that this show is interactive and it is to help people, period. There is nothing else that goes along with this show but that. How we do it is how she's going to construct it.
Okay. Props to y'all. So then I guess lastly but not least, when can the people expect it, and like how do they get in contact with y'all, for as far as learning more about what you're doing?
So next month, we premiere next month. We're not going to give a date because the boss says, well, what if you make some changes or whatever. So we are in production now. So yeah, expect to hear us next month. And as we get closer, we'll we'll eke out the date. We'll seep out the date.
Stay tuned.
We're
That's
dripping
subscribe.
a little bit more information like every day. We're dripping a little bit on social media. Follow me. I'm one Dr. the number one DRRO. Follow me, One Dr. Rowe on Facebook. I'm Everything Rowe on Instagram, and I'm Everything Rowe, and that's everything the RO, all one word, on X and Instagram. So all that to say, and I'm Everything Rowe on YouTube. So you're going to get us everywhere. You'll be able to have access to us everywhere. But I want you to know that you're going to have access to the show in a way that you may not have imagined. You're going to be able to tell us things. You're going to be able to give us advice. You're going to be able to give us, if you want to check us, you can do that too. But what we're going to give you what we hope you need. And we're going to listen to you in terms of what your needs are. What are your health needs? What are the things that are bothering you? What are the things that you'd like to get? What are the ways in which you'd like to get better, both mentally and physically? And let me just say, we have guests lined up for the first couple of weeks of the premiere month that will blow your mind. We're talking to
see, I didn't even want to go there. Like, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I know you know some big players. But
we are talking to some, we're talking to some people that we know and feel that you'll want to hear from, and they're going to come in here and light it on fire. So I couldn't be more excited than I am this moment, and most moments, because most days I am working on the show, but it's all for you.
Good stuff. That's what they want to hear. Dr. Rowe, continued blessings, nothing but success for the future. And, can't wait to hear y'all on air. And, you always can come back here to join us.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, indeed. All right. So IMHO family, tell a friend. Y'all stay tuned. Stay subscribed. WVAI 101 Jams. It's your home for the hip hop and R&B, today's and the classics. And so coming up in May, the Dr. Rowe Morning Show. But for now,
be there.
That's right. Be there. Beat her there. Or be square. But for now, she is on IMHO Talk Show. And as we said, we got a big show lined up. Coming in next is none other than Bernard Whitsitt from the Jefferson School Foundation. And then much, much, much more show after that. We got students doing economic empowerment. We have mentors, educators going to come and chill with us, chat, big conversation. Miss Max, though, tell them how they can chime into this convo.
Sure. We're streaming the show online. You'll find us on YouTube and at IMHO Talk Show on all of your streaming platforms. So
That's right.
Check us out. Send us your questions or comments. We want to hear from you.
That's right. All right. Be right back.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
I to the ism, H to the Izzo Talk Show. Back like we never left, Miss Max.
That's right.
Yeah, and so we are in the building to talk about the building, the real building. Oh, scoot that mic over for him, Miss Max. Mr. Whitson, we're gonna get you on that mic right there in the middle. Yep. And so as promised, we have great community partners, great community support, because that's what it's about, especially in this nonprofit field. Because Miss Max, for those that don't know, WVAI 101 Jams is in fact a low power FM nonprofit station, which just means that we're not commercial. So you don't kind of benefit from the finances of being a commercial radio station. So we much appreciate the relationships in Charlottesville, who has I believe like one of the highest per capita number of nonprofit organizations in the country. Right. And so part of that partnership is what IMHO and Jams has done with none other than the Jefferson School Foundation. And so that's why I am glad to have its executive director here with us today to talk more about it. Mr. Bernard Whitsitt. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you very much.
And so, so we've been saying that one of the importance of this, Bernard, is a lot of people are aware of particular entities that are based there in the city center, but a lot of people don't know how it operates. Right. And so they may associate a particular tenant or organization that is there, and that's all they know about it. So glad to have you here to kind of to educate folks, on and inform folks about all the great resources that you all have in the city center.
Right.
So I guess let's start with, what is the Jefferson School Foundation? For those who may not know it by that title, what is the Jefferson School Foundation? I guess you just scoot in a little bit.
The foundation is the organization that owns and operates the Jefferson School City Center. It evolved from the Jefferson Partners, which was the original organization that received the building and furnished the building, renovated the building.
Okay.
But over time, it matured and morphed into a foundation where they decided to hire an executive director to manage the day-to-day operation.
And how long have you been executive director?
So I have been there 2 years in March.
Okay.
2 years in March.
Okay.
So the foundation owns the building. It operates the building, and it leases the building to various tenants.
Okay.
All right. And now I'm taking for granted that everybody has heard of the Jefferson School, but let the folks know where it's located so they know exactly where we're talking about.
Okay. So the Jefferson School Foundation, the Jefferson School City Center, is located in downtown Charlottesville, 233 4th Street Northwest, Commerce Street and 4th Street. Okay, straight across from the Staples, McDonald's, Wendy's, in the heart of downtown Charlottesville. Okay.
Right. And where the Carver Rec Center is.
Carver Rec Center. The Carver Rec Center is one of our anchor tenants.
Yeah. Awesome, good stuff. And so, like, I'm curious, what was the reasoning for making it a foundation? Because I heard you say how it kind of started, but it sounds like there was a strategic reason for it to become a foundation. Can you explain that at all?
Well, my understanding is that it was a partnership before, because they wanted to take advantage of various types of tax credits. In order to have investors and participation by various other organizations and entities, as well as the city of Charlottesville, they had to set it up as a partnership initially.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
I must admit, I just very recently, and I mean like recent years, realized that the Jefferson School Heritage Center is not the same as the Jefferson School as a whole.
This is true.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, or maybe it was just me, that confused because the names were so closely related. I guess I just assumed that the center played a bigger role in, I don't know, ownership and management of the building than I guess what it actually.
So you're not by yourself. Okay. You're not by yourself. I will say that. I will also say that probably 90% of the telephone calls I receive on a daily basis
is
are not for
theory,
me.
huh? Okay.
They're for the African American Heritage Center.
Right.
But there is definitely a lot of confusion around it. Okay. So let's think of it as a puzzle.
Right.
There's a big puzzle, and there are 11 pieces to the puzzle. So one of the pieces of the puzzle is the African American Heritage.
Gotcha. With you now.
So they are one of the tenants, one of the 11 tenants in the building.
Okay.
So we own, operate the building. We lease the space to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have any vacancies? How do you decide what tenants go into those spaces?
We have a possible upcoming vacancy in July 1st, on July 1st.
Okay.
Possibly.
Okay.
Recently we had a transition of some of our space. The Piedmont Virginia Community College moved several of their operations from the school out to the main campus.
Gotcha. Okay.
They had a new building that went online, and so those classes in various types of workshops and certifications moved out to the main campus. And subsequently, that opened up more space for some of the existing tenants. Surprisingly, most of our tenants are growing. And as a result, they want more space.
Yeah. I guess I would have thought, having PVCC there was ideal for them. It's more convenient, it seems to me, for the residents of Charlottesville. But
well, they're still there.
Okay.
They didn't move the entire operation out to the college.
Okay.
They just moved some of the operation out.
Okay.
So they still have the culinary arts program there. And then they still have a lot of technical classes there.
Okay.
Cool. And family, we are joined by Bernard Whitsitt, the executive director for the Jefferson School Foundation. So Bernard, so who are the organizations that are housed there, so people can further understand this landscape?
Okay, let me take a visual peek into my memory. Okay, the two anchor tenants, the Carver Center, Carver Recreation Center, and the African American Heritage.
Okay.
So they house the space that they have are at the ends of the building. Okay. And then the other spaces are occupied by the Fountain Fund, Literacy Volunteers, Centera, Star Hill, the Women's Initiative. Okay. Then we have the Piedmont YMCA Early Learning Center.
Okay. Yeah, my kids went there.
Good variety.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of our newer tenants who joined us in April is the Uhuru Foundation.
Okay.
So they have moved their offices from a previous location in town
Mm-hmm.
to the city center.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice.
Additionally,
Mm-hmm.
the PBCC,
Mm-hmm.
they still have their operations there.
Okay.
All right. We have the Virginia Book Humanities of the Arts,
Mm-hmm.
University of Virginia.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then, of course, we have one non-profit organization, Pearl Allen.
Yes. Can't forget the food.
Okay. So they provide food for the building.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in a partnership with the African American Heritage Center, where the Heritage Center does the early morning breakfast
Okay.
from 9 to 1.
Okay.
And then the Pearl Island overlaps
Yeah.
their hours until like 3 o'clock.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Got a nice little ecosystem going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, is there a certain type of organization that you seek out or that you accept to be tenants? You know, is there sort of a theme to it?
All of them are nonprofits with the exception
Mhm.
of Pearl Island.
Pearl Island.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Like,
the
but you can be any
building-
kind of nonprofit, or is it like, are you trying to keep a certain?
well, the building is focused on the community.
Okay.
Okay. The building was built with the purpose of serving the African American community
Okay.
because we weren't being educated
Right.
right after slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a fund that was granted.
Mm-hmm.
Monies came to Charlottesville to build that building.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after slavery, it started to educate people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's big. That's
So the building actually
history.
was done in 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother went to the school.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So
That's good
the
history to preserve.
like, proximity. If I'm looking at the building face on,
Mhm.
from what direction was the different parts of the building constructed? Like, was the
I believe the immediate left where the African American Heritage Center is
Mhm.
located was the first.
okay?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
And then the middle was the second, and then joined by the Carver Center area
Gotcha.
as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that replaced a previous school that was located at the location,
Mm-hmm.
but it was basically where the courtyard is now.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a one big building construction facility
Yeah.
that was the school.
Okay.
But when they decided to build this part of the school,
Mm-hmm.
they raised that
Mm-hmm.
and started building it in sections.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's awesome. And I can't help but think, as you talk about the need for the community services, but also the need to just preserve the history.
Right.
I mean, because you just mentioned some rich history,
Mhm.
in your last statement. And I think sometimes we overlook that. Like because sometimes, as you mentioned post-slavery, but sometimes we think that we're in a post-racial society.
Not at all.
Where that doesn't
Not at
matter
all.
anymore.
Mm-mm.
And that we can forget about the past
Mhm.
because it's not going to repeat itself, is what
Mhm.
people think. So I think that, that
Well,
preservation.
It will not repeat itself if you remember it.
There you go.
Okay. If you don't remember it, it will eventually repeat itself.
Mm-hmm.
There
Okay.
you go.
So we have organizations that want to serve the community. The community as it was originally, Vinegar Hill,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Star Hill, that entire area was predominantly Black,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
okay, predominantly African American people. So that goal and purpose of the building was to bring together organizations that want to serve those who have often been ignored.
Mhm.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. So, and speaking of which, we what are some projects that you all have coming up that that may be top of mind, that the community definitely should mark down, put on their calendars?
Well, one thing you should mark down is that we just opened up a community conference room. Okay.
Okay.
And that can be utilized by other nonprofit organizations, fraternities and sororities, or churches that want to have a meeting room space for free. Okay.
Nice.
So people can call us and they can reserve a slot to have a meeting. The room houses of roughly about 35, 40 people, auditorium style. Okay. And you could probably say we could house about 30 with tables and chairs for like any type of workshop effort you might want to do.
And for those that are
That's
familiar
big.
with the building, where is it located?
It's located on the first floor,
Okay.
and you will come through the main doors, make a immediate left, and you'll come around the curve. You'll pass the elevators as you come around. You'll pass the mailboxes, and then you'll come down the short hall.
Yeah.
And the short hall is where our offices are now located.
Okay.
That's 131. So it's adjacent to our actual office.
Okay.
That is
So we want to encourage people to use it, sign up for it. And it is just a room now with chairs and tables, but we will eventually supply audio going forward. So we're working on that piece of it now. Okay. Other things that we're working on is that in July, we're in partnership with Paul Davis Restoration. We're having a blood drive.
Okay.
Okay. So that, I think that's the 25th of July. We'll be having a blood drive. So as you know, accidents do happen and people do get sick, and oftentimes they need blood. So please come out to support it. If you're able to give blood, please do.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And of course, as you mentioned, oftentimes people have a difficulty differentiating between the African American Heritage Center and the Jefferson School Foundation. So we are actually in a process of doing a rebranding campaign. So our goal is to have a rollout in October of the new logo and the new rebranding.
Okay.
So that is our goal, and we're trying to follow a strict timeline to move in that direction.
And is there any community engagement in that project, or is this just something that the board is handling?
Well, everything has to run through the board. Okay. We do have volunteers that are working on a task force with us.
Okay. Good. I was just asking because folk value their opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to be able to have less confusion.
Yeah, I do understand.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's of utmost importance. And ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking with Executive Director Bernard Whitsitt of the Jefferson School Foundation, breaking down the nitty gritty of, the whole landscape of it, history of it, and the meaning of it, talking about that branding to make sure that we're clear and understand our resources. And I have to say, I'm just delighted to hear about how there could be opportunity, like for public usage in space, right? Because that is so needed, for sure. So I'm sure there's a lot folks that can appreciate that. But besides that, before we let you go, what else can we expect in the future? Any other changes and any other goals that the board may have that you want to share?
Well, one thing that we have done, some people may have noticed it, others may not have. We are continually trying to improve the building. So once I got there, I said we needed to address safety and security. So we have spent a significant amount of money on cameras and properly locking doors, so that there's roughly almost 40 cameras inside the building and outside the building, so that we make sure that people are being safe. Okay. And of course, when you have an open building, you can't eliminate all risk.
Right.
But we want to try to minimize the risk. So we are continuing to do that. We will continue to look at ways to upgrade the building, because obviously when you have tenants, they want everything to run smoothly.
Mhm.
It is a very old building. It will never be perfect because of when it was built. You have issues with cracks in the window. You know, that's age, settling. They didn't have double pane glass back then. And again, it's a historical building. So given that it's a historical building, you have to look at the trade-offs.
Absolutely.
Do you keep the history?
Right.
Do you maintain the history? Can you live with a draft here or there? That type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I must say, I always enjoy myself.
Good.
Whenever I go to the building. Yeah.
And I do appreciate the certain aspects of the building that preserve the historic texture of the building. I know there's I believe some chairs in the halls that
Yes.
look like it could have been like auditorium type
Those were
chairs,
the
but-
original auditorium chairs.
Yeah. So I appreciate things like that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Bernard, thank you for joining us. But how can folks support and how can they reach you all?
Okay, they can reach us by calling 434-422-1520.
Okay.
That's our main line. And if you call that line and we're not available, it will automatically kick over to my cell phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Say that number for me one more time.
434-422-1520.
All right.
Okay. And again, we are located at 131. That's suite 131.
Okay.
On the first floor of the Jefferson School City Center, located at 233 4th Street Northwest in Charlottesville, the corner of Commerce and 4th Street.
Gotcha. All right. Good stuff.
So, as you mentioned, as I was talking about the rebranding, so creating a robust website is a part of our rebranding as well.
Okay.
So that's just a piece of the puzzle for the rebranding campaign. So we'll have, proper, robust website for people to go on and be able to link to the tenants that are in the building and see what they offer in their various spaces.
Nice.
I think the final question for me, you've obviously mentioned a few projects that the foundation is working on, but as a director, what's your, I guess, personal passion here as you serve in this role? What are your objectives or things that you'd like to see accomplished or maintained for the building while you're at the helm?
Well, what I would love to see happen is that we reduce our environmental footprint.
Okay.
I think safety is very important. I would like to see where we can reduce our use of energy because it is an old building. It has big boilers. We have a lot of AC units throughout the building to keep all the tenants comfortable. So looking at ways to reduce the footprint.
Okay.
The carbon footprint. So whether that would be solar in the future as a way, that would be good. I love the building. I attended school there for 2 years before integration. So there's a lot of passion and there's a lot of love. And the walls speak to me.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. Absolutely. So folks definitely reach out for more information. And I'm sure that because we didn't ask this, is it like a sliding scale as far as tenants there? Is it per basis or is it like flat for everybody?
Well, it depends on how long your lease is.
Okay.
Because we have some people that come in and may sign like a 2-year lease. And then we have others that come in and sign in the 15-year.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it depends upon that.
Okay.
But typically speaking, in the leasing space, you can expect somewhere between a 2.5% to 3% annual increase of your rent. Okay. They don't pay for any type of energy expenses. That's all included in the lease, in the lease.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm very fortunate to have a partner working with me, Kimberly Sheffield. She works with me.
Absolutely.
And I'm very appreciative of her being with me at the school, primarily on a part-time basis,
Mm-hmm.
but it allows us to go in multiple directions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And, you know, also thinking about that space. So I've attended a few events there that were held outside. I'm not sure if one of the tenants hosted that event, but that's also open to the public in terms.
I'm glad you
Yeah,
asked
yeah,
that question.
yeah.
So the tenants
Mm-hmm.
can utilize the space.
Okay.
They have to reserve it.
Okay.
So we have an application process
Okay.
for them to reserve it,
Mm-hmm.
to reserve the courtyard or other areas of the outside.
Mm-hmm.
We also will lease the space
Mm-hmm.
to organizations that are not housed in the building.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there's a fee for that,
Yeah.
depending on how much space they're going to take up.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good question. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Well, we thank you for joining us. This is your first time guest, but hopefully you'll come
Yeah.
back and join us and
Love
share
to-
some
love
rich
to come back.
information about
Please
the
do.
Jefferson Foundation. We appreciate you and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning into In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Back like we never left. Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
And we are here, like always, to edutain, do what we do. So tell a friend, IMHO Talk Show on all the platforms, Miss Max. We need y'all to join in these conversations. So thank everybody for tuning in so far with us. Because we got much more show as promised. And so send those questions and comments per usual. But as of right now, for the middle hour of the show, we just delighted because, like I'm an old head and like one of my young bucks that I've gotten the pleasure to meet and to know is none other than Cyrell Greer. And he is the president of the UVA Black Economic Empowerment Society,
Okay.
and they have a summit coming up. That's going to be big for not only the UVA community, but one thing I love about what he and his team are doing is that it's stuff that engages the community. Gets sort of the life experiences from everybody, not just the students, but community members as well. So glad to have y'all with us. And Soraya, I'm going to let you also officially introduce your guest here, because I'm not sure like what her role on Bees is. So so go out.
I got you. So my lovely guest with me here today is Miss Lauren Josiah. She is the events coordinator she's the head of the events committee for Bees, and she's been invaluably helpful to me and the team, and wouldn't be where we are today as an org without her. So
Nice.
I'm lucky to have her here.
Welcome, Lauren. I mean, like that was a big intro right there. I mean, like I hope you live up to that. Oh man, but so where do we start? So Black Economic Empowerment Society, right? Is the entity that we're sort of mainly here. So let's start with the intro of that, and then we can get a little more background information on you all, on why it's so important, why you as a student, as a young adult, see the need for this, right? Yeah. So for those who never heard of it, go ahead and break it down for us. I'd love to hear from both of you all about what Bees, how Bees started, and what it's all about.
Okay, yeah. So Bees is an idea that had been floating in my mind after I ended first year of college, just because I was just scoping the landscape of the organizations that had currently existed at UVA. And there were a lot of organizations focused on social and cultural upliftment of the Black community, but there was really nothing focused on the economic empowerment of the Black community. And, we tend to be at the bottom in terms of wealth, entrepreneurship level. So I was like, what can I do to help out with that issue? And I feel like the economics has been hugely overlooked, and making sure we're engaging in group economics and learning about financial capability and how to increase our wealth and stuff like that that was just something that didn't exist in the community. So I was like, why not me? So I spent the whole second year, first semester kind of honing the idea, but I didn't really know what I was doing, if I'm being honest. And
learning
then,
experience.
Learning experience. And then, the shooting happened that semester, and that kind of shut everything down. So didn't really get back into developing the ideas until like winter break of second year. And then over that break, I went on a trip with, it was sponsored by Truist, the Truist Leadership Academy. I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I actually met two of our current exec members there. Leah Winston, who's our vice president, one of our vice presidents, and Marquise Rice, who's our chief financial officer.
Okay, shouts out to them.
Yeah. And I had told Marquise I had all these plans for the semester with Bees and stuff after breaking the idea down to him, and he was like, you should have been had those things planned like a while ago. And I was, because like I'm talking about like logo and mission statement and all that. Like, oh, I'm trying to have something in 2 weeks, and Marquise is like, you're a little behind.
Hey.
And then so
you need people that's gonna keep it real with you.
No, for real. And he is one of those people. He will keep it real with you. So after talking to him, and he had already started multiple orgs and stuff, I was like inspired, and I was like, I would just put things in motion, started put more time in the next couple of weeks. And then we had our first interest meeting on January 24th, 2023. So that's kind of like our founding date, I guess. So we've been running for over a year now, but our initial activities, we had a couple of workshops. The first event we ever had was February 15th, 2023. It was a networking 101 workshop. We had Reggie Leonard from the School of Data Science come in, and talk about networking, because it's so important for the members of our community, especially because we tend to come in with smaller networks in general compared to the broader population. So to learn how to do it effectively is a huge economic boon to you if you learn how to use it effectively and use it for good for yourself.
That's right. And Reggie's the wine man too.
Yes, right? Reggie is the wine man. Yes.
A lot of people know him from that.
Right. Yeah. So that was our first event. And then we had a Black Student Business Expo. And that's kind of become our calling card, like as an organization. That's the event that kind of separates us from other orgs. Like it's just not something that's done often. So yeah, our first one, we had like 12 student vendors, like students who had started businesses participate, and that was a big event, and it kind of changed my perspective on what the org could look like, because I was thinking the event was just going to be like oh, they have their posters and signs up and they do their advertising. But it literally turned into a marketplace. And I was like, oh, I did not even think about this as a possibility for the event. But so many people bought so much stuff, like bracelets from Fian. Yeah, Fian sold a lot. She always sells a lot at our events.
Okay.
So then we, after the momentum from that, we wanted to have another one because we're like, people made a lot of money. This is contributing to entrepreneurial or an economy of group economics because we're giving more exposure to these Black businesses.
Absolutely.
You know, expanding their customer base. Like it's just a great event that should be replicated. So we had another one in September that was even bigger and better. We had good amount of attendees, over 100 attendees at that. And then we had a Black business pop-up shop, which has been our biggest event to date, February 10th, 2024. And this one was different from the previous events because we brought in community vendors. So we had like 6 community vendors, 3 student-owned businesses, and our vendors in total ended up selling over $3,500 of inventory, making over 150 followers on social media. So it was a really great event. And now we got the summit coming up, but we're also getting community involvement with that. So sorry, that was a little long-winded, but
I mean, that's the background though,
Got a lot
right
of
there.
stuff going on.
Oh, I guess I missed with the vision of the. I think did I mention it with the mission and vision? Okay, yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
But Lauren, I want you to chime in too on, you know, like, so he kind of gave the foundation, but what made you want to get involved with this, or anything you want to add?
Yeah, so for me, I think it was a little unique because I'm actually a nursing major. So like I was kind of like, I didn't really at first see my place, but I wanted to, I took a few econ classes at the start of my college experience. But I grew up like in a home where my mom always pushed the importance of like ownership and especially being a Black woman and all of that and having something to yourself. And so obviously I saw like within the community that there's not enough of us in that space. And so I was really just trying to see like where I could, you know, fit in the org. And I think events and being able to bring people together, I am a strong believer that you can't do everything on your own. And so being able to bring different people together, seeing people succeed is where like I'm passionate. And so I think when it comes to bees and seeing how it's grown over the past year, being able to watch all of the connections that we've made in the community, and as it continues to grow, even with this weekend, bringing community members in and like watching students now be able to engage in community, you know, events and building that network. I was super passionate about that, and I love continuing to do that. So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. And Cyrell, so you know, since she so eloquently took it there, like, what was your background coming into school and you know, and then leading up to you even feeling fit to lead such a society such as
Oh,
Bees?
that's a great question. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So I was blessed with 2 great parents. I grew up in a kind of unconventional household, same-sex family. My 2 moms raised me great. I think they did a great job, and I'm super fortunate to have them in my life and to have raised me in the way they did. And their focus on education and making sure I was always getting done what I needed to get done. And then I guess kind of encouraging me to take on leadership roles outside of that. So like my stepmom played basketball in college for a couple years. And she kind of always encouraged me to be more of a leader on the basketball court and stuff like that. And my mom was just always making sure I had all my schoolwork done and stuff like that. So yeah, I was a pretty good student in high school, which lets me getting accepted in the UVA and having some of the opportunities I had to come here. And I feel like I was just put in a position to where I had the freedom to where I was able I was able to start a student organization because, you know, I didn't have, you know, I wasn't in the unfortunate circumstance where I had to be working 2-3 jobs, which some of my friends who are amazing people didn't have the opportunity to start organizations like Bees because you know, they had to worry about where they was going to get their income from to be able to fund their college education. So, you know, just taking advantage of the opportunities that I've been afforded and, you know, maximizing on them has really been what led me to feeling like I was fit and then actually executing it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's pretty.
Thank you.
And will be interesting to a lot of people who are listening to this this interview, only because at a university, at a school like the University of Virginia,
I think that's why I was taking.
Most people think those needs are already being filled. Like, you know, what's the need to then create a separate organization that's may be intended to incubate or teach the same type of things that this major school should probably already be providing to its entire student body. So the fact that you saw the need for Black and brown people to be able to have something like that for themselves because there was the void, it says a lot. It says a lot.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. And I'm sorry, you were gonna add to that?
No, I was just gonna say I can even speak on that too because, like I said, my first semester I took I took one econ class, and I had a discussion, and it was like a small group type of setting, and so in that small group, I think I was the only Black female in that class, and so being around a lot of people that don't look like me, I automatically didn't feel like I had that seat at the table. And so I think with the creation of Bees and being able to come together as Black people, it only makes us stronger. And, the general society where there isn't a lot of people that look like us. And so understanding that, like, you're always welcome at the table. And if there's no seat, pull up a chair. I think that's why I appreciate it. And even at a school like UVA, where people would think those needs are met, you still need that additional support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a lot of us have sort of the big brother complex, as it's called. So I'm curious, how much of an onus do y'all put on yourselves when it comes to feeling like, wow, like I made it to UVA. Like I need to make sure that we're empowered, right? And I may be asking that in the vein of this conversation of sometimes we have like two perspectives, like outside looking in, right? UVA student, and let's keep it 100, right?
Yeah.
It's like some people look at it and like, oh, y'all UVA students, so y'all, like bougie, uppity, you came from well-to-do. Automatically, people think that, right?
Yeah.
But then there's some who celebrate it. I think the other side celebrates and saying, wow, congratulations, y'all made it to that prestigious institution. Like rep us well kind of attitude. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, like, what's y'all's experience been with those two perspectives, and if you do feel an onus, to do things such as this empowerment work?
Oh yeah, no, that's a good question.
Like, haven't you been faced with either of those perspectives, where people kind of like, oh, you think you somebody because you got accepted UVA kind of thing? Or
I actually haven't ran into that in the Charlottesville community.
Or anywhere for that matter, even if it's childhood
like,
friends,
No, not really. I haven't really run into that. It's everybody's been celebratory, and
awesome.
speaking to my experience, particularly with the Charlottesville community, I didn't really expect to get embraced or anything like that, but I think it just demonstrates like all of you guys' character. Like Charles, you embraced me from the moment I first met you, and everybody else that started realizing that I had like good intentions, and like when I was showing up consistently in the community, I just wanted to see like genuine areas where we could connect, either our organizations or just our interests or initiatives, to be able to contribute to something bigger.
That's right.
So yeah, that was like, once everybody realized that, because the first conversation I had with anybody from the community was with Quentin Harrell, who's going to be one of our panelists this weekend. And he was telling me about how in the past, like some of the initiatives are like for school projects or like just like temporary things. They're not always like genuine attempts to connect with the community. And ever since that moment, I've always remembered that when he told me that, and he was like, you got to show up. Like, he invited me to the Steve-O Brothers hangouts, and that was the next thing I showed up to, and I enjoyed that so much. Like, just being around a bunch of older dudes who had all this knowledge and wisdom. I felt like I walked away from that experience, and we was just it was Belmont Pizza that we were at. So it's not like it was just dudes sitting around and talking and like sharing knowledge, and I just gained so much from it. I was like, other people could gain a lot from this. So, I kept showing up and just seeing where we can make those connections. And I just haven't felt that ostracization from the community at all. Or like I said, from anybody in my family or anything. So I guess I've been lucky. I don't know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about your experience?
I was just sitting here trying to think. I was like, honestly, I have not felt that either. I think the second I got accepted to UVA, my mom obviously told like all of her friends, and so everybody was like beyond excited. And so I think it's just been an overwhelming like sense of people being proud. And so I haven't felt that either. I think I've been lucky. And then within the Charlottesville community, I think it's kind of like, okay, congratulations, like you made it, and like you're going places and
Yeah.
expecting some level of success, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. And Max, I'm curious on your opinion too. As someone, you see Lauren, and you were someone who went to school and had a business idea. For y'all that don't know, this show that we're on right now started as a school project.
Oh,
for Maxilia.
Wow.
So Max, I know some things that got to be running through your head as far as you looking at this young lady and seeing some of yourself.
Yeah. I totally get. Sometimes when a person says that they lack having experienced certain things in situations that seem so prevalent and unavoidable for others, people are a little bit shocked by it, right? It does seem like an oddity, but I totally resonate with the two of you in saying that you haven't experienced those type of like negative sort of things throughout your journey of being a student at the university and starting this nonprofit here. But it's the only thing I really have to say about this for the two of you is that good for you for both A, recognizing the need, and two, being bold enough, especially in the space that you're in right now,
right?
Being bold enough to then step out and create something with the understanding that, okay, this is going to be judged a little bit. I don't know how people are going to receive this. And I just got to, prepare myself for it and push through that anyway. So good for you for being able to do that and being willing to give back to the community as well.
Yes, indeed. So we are joined by Lauren and Sorrell of Bees at UVA, the Black Economic Empowerment Society. So y'all enjoy Black Alumni Weekend? Did y'all participate?
Yeah.
It's my first Black Alumni Weekend.
Yes,
I had
okay.
a ball.
All right, now your third year. What year are you?
I'm second year now.
So second year. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So y'all had a ball.
Yeah. It's my favorite weekend here because we quite literally take over the school. My first year, I just remember feeling so empowered that weekend. I was just like, and I don't know if y'all saw the pictures that came out of that weekend, but like there was a picture that went kind of viral of like all the Black people in the amphitheater, and we were like doing the girl, I got this swag. The swag surf. Yeah, and that picture was just so amazing, and it just captured the moment perfectly. Yeah. So it's an amazing weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll go to break shortly, and then when we come back, we'll dive deep into the summit and what people can expect from the summit, and then talk a little bit about the other future goals of Bees. But so as you said, you've been very intentional about tying in the community. So there's an old term y'all probably heard by now called the town and gown, town versus gown. So you have sort of UVA, then you have Charlottesville, right? And people sometimes feel like that is worlds apart. So why do you feel that is important though? Like for you to step outside of grounds and engage in the community, and is that more so a shared perspective that you're seeing of Black students that feel like, wow, like I need to find my community here, versus them saying, no, like we have our own community on grounds.
Yeah. So the reason I thought it was important initially was because of the history. And like I had learned the history a couple years ago during like a tour. There's an organization on grounds who gives tours called HEAL Tours, history of enslaved laborers at the university.
Yep.
And I just remember learning that history and then digging deeper into Black Charlottesville history and learning about Vinegar Hill and all the other neighborhoods that were destroyed and stuff like that. And I'm just like, we got to be doing more to connect with the community. Like there's just no reason that the history should be like this. And there's not enough attempts being made to like mend those gaps and like repair the wounds. You know what I'm saying? So that was initially why I thought it was important. And then I included as one of the 6 core purposes of the Black Economic Empowerment Society initially to connect Black Charlottesville and Black UVA. But then like once I started getting into the community myself, I realized that it was important for other reasons. Like this community is just super vibrant and there's just so much out there. Like BPN is out there always having events and like looking for opportunities for people to connect and network with each other, and students could benefit largely from that. From attending a Working Wednesdays and just meeting somebody who could have some sort of opportunity at like a radio station or like in their business or something like that, or could connect you to somebody. Like that's just something we miss out on by not, engaging with the community, just being stuck in the bubble that is UVA. And the thing is, it's so easy to do that.
Right.
Because like UVA does have like everything you need right there. But like, I think we should just be going beyond that, and like getting out of our comfort zone and just meeting people who are genuinely great people and being involved in the community. That's a great community, and, learning for ourselves, but also, teaching what we have to give as well. So it's a equal exchange type of thing.
So can I ask you a question? And this is just purely for curiosity's sake. What do you think makes you uniquely equipped to be able to bridge that gap between Black UVA and the Black community in Charlottesville?
Yeah. So that again is just a thing of me like taking advantage of the opportunities that I've been given. So I ride a bike everywhere. That's one thing that I do. And I think a lot of people know me for like being on my bike, and like I don't have a car. So like I feel like a lot of people will be turned off by going out into the town immediately because they'll be like, oh, I don't have a way to get there. But I'm like, bike is a 10-minute bike ride. That's not that much effort, 15 minutes. Like I'll do that to be able to get somewhere that could potentially change my economic future. Like, like definitely. And like I said, just not having to work so many jobs and being empowered by the position that I've been, afforded here by, winning the scholarship that I did and stuff like that. I just haven't had to worry financially about a lot. So it's kind of like put me in the position to where I could explore a lot. And then I found out that this is what I wanted to do. This is what the community needed. And then also adding in the aspect that like I like am genuine, like I've always been someone who's kind of community involved. So it's kind of like a natural transition thing for me to get involved in the community out here, even though it took a while. Like it didn't happen to my second year. Like first year I was in that bubble, but it was like inevitably going to happen that I would get outside that bubble. Yeah.
And Lauren, what about yourself when it comes to balancing being on grounds with being in the community?
Yeah, I think coming to UVA, I think we have the unique luxury of already having such a tight-knit Black community at UVA. And so I think that in and of itself has empowered me to now want to go outside of that, because we have such a strong community on grounds that it's like, okay, why not share this with the greater community? And I've always loved community engagement and just meeting so many people in the community. Charlottesville has so many great people, and especially Black entrepreneurs. And so being able to share the two and like bring them together, I think in the realm of entrepreneurship is so important because it's an area where you do have to support each other, and that's inevitable. So
Yeah. Thank y'all for that. Got more questions, but we're gonna take a break. And then we come back to the summit. And I think when y'all let folks know about the summit that's coming up, which again is also it also crosses the aisle of grounds and community, town and gown, if you will, the whole Charlottesville UVA community. It's a great offering. It's empowering, not only to learn stuff for yourself, but I think people would be inspired just to show up and to see it, the things that you all have planned. So we can come back and talk about that, and I'm sure that'll spawn further conversation. So so Sir Charles, Miss Max, IMHO Talk Show. Take this quick break, so y'all don't go too far. Maybe tell a friend, but we are here in the building with none other than Lauren and Cyrell of UVA's Black Economic Empowerment Society. Stay tuned.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
you know, I guess I want, even though that's not what I'm, you know, doing any of it for. I have gotten recognized. I won the NAACP Up and Coming Upperclassmen Award last year, like right as
awesome,
I was getting B started. So that was a great feeling. And then our org has been awarded more so than me being awarded as an individual, which is fine because I love the organization and the organization is always going to be a part of me. Like that's my baby at the end of the day. So yeah, I haven't felt that way for like any extended period of time or anything, but I feel like it naturally comes up just like being a human and, you know, just going through what humans go through mentally and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's real. And Lauren, what about yourself when it comes to all of that? The sometimes having a thankless job, but it's your passion, and you see the need.
Yeah, I think being part of the events committee and like being the events coordinator, it's like I see firsthand and do the stuff that goes into the events. And so a lot of times I'm like, oh my goodness, like I've had such a cool idea, like everybody's gonna love this. And so I think sometimes when the areas that I feel like I struggle a little bit sometimes is when, and recognizing that we're a new organization, is like when I feel like, you know, certain attendance or like responses to events should be like, you know, through the roof. It's like, okay, wait a minute, like we're just starting. And then figuring out ways to like almost help people receive it more, I think is more of what I focus on. But I feel like, kind of like Sarel said, the org has been awarded and recognized in so many ways. So never an extended period of time feeling like that, but it's definitely thoughts that come up. And just, I think though it continues, or it makes me want to continue to work harder and like share this passion with other people.
Okay. Because this show is called In My Humble Opinion, and I'm keeping 100 for y'all. I have a love-hate relationship with Black people. I'm gonna keep it real, Max. Now, you know, and of course, like I say that like with like, you know, in all sincerity, like, but of course, you know, like symbolically, of course, like not hate, you know what I'm saying? But it's but you know, but it's true though, because like, especially when we like y'all said, y'all have done your research, when you look at our history and you know, Sarel, you threw out some data there earlier as well when it comes to our representation, like in the economic sphere and whatnot. And it's like sometimes when you see the history and you see the facts, and then when people don't respond to that in a manner that's going to improve our situation, it's kind of like, yo, like what are we doing as a people right now? Like are we happy with being subservient? Are we happy with being the help? I'm not.
You know, and so
like, I don't think that's why we were put here. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't
agree.
think that's our origin.
Yeah, I agree. I guess it just takes more people with that mindset. It takes more people to think like that, because a lot of people, once they've made it to their point of comfortability in life, they're like, why help the people that, you know, I guess, quote unquote, got left behind? And I feel like that's not something I've encountered much at UVA. Like there are a lot of people at UVA who are of service and of servanthood, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there, and Black people, like you said, who, you know, once they get there, that's the way they think, and they don't see a reason to help the people who haven't been helped. But like you said, I think it's a mission. I think it's something that if you do make it to great places, you should feel inclined to help out the community and uplift the people around you.
Absolutely. And Max, I kind of feel like it's one of those times where I wish Razor was here. I don't say that often. So Razor, you may want to mark down and stamp the date and time that I said wish you were here. No, because I bring it up because Razor and I have this conversation, and Razor is one of our co-hosts. But we have this conversation about, like, you know, how he has the mindset, unless it's changed, Max, like that everybody should or has what it takes to be a business owner. I kind of feel like that we all play our part. Like, so when I speak, like, you know, I'm talking about we as a collective, right? Because we all know, like, like there's a job for everybody. Like Chris Rock said, sometimes you gotta play the tambourine. That's it. So you better play the hell out of that tambourine, even if you're not the lead singer. You know, so you know, like, but we as a collective, and I think that's why this summit is just so important. Yeah. But the B Summit. So tell us more about it. How did this come to be? And you got 2 days coming up here, Friday, Saturday, April 26th and 27th. You know, give us the lowdown.
Yeah. So the B Summit is going to be an event focused on giving students and community members vital financial education that is crucial to, you know, economic freedom. So we're going to have a couple of presentations on Friday, the first day, from these members. One on generational wealth, a history, and like a path forward. I'm giving a presentation on building and maintaining your credit. Maya, who's one of our finance committee members, is giving a presentation on budgeting, and Marquise, our chief financial officer, will be giving a presentation in addition to Maya, on scholarships, how to find and win scholarships, like how to write. So a lot of people don't think about writing as an economic skill, but it most certainly is. Yeah. So that's going to be day one, and then we're going to have an hour in between presentations. So first presentations, 2 to 3, 2 30-minute presentations, and then the hour in between is going to be an hour of Black economic history trivia. So Lauren and the events committee have developed an amazing set of questions that'll educate people, and then we have prizes for the winners. We're going to have some Visa gift cards for the top 3 winners. And then day 2 is the day that BPN is coming in the mix, and then Vinegar Hills co-sponsoring. We are going to have panelists. So our empowerment panel, we got Sir Charles Lewis right here, the host of the talk show and president of Black Professional Network. We got Quentin Harrell, who is a serial entrepreneur in the area, has done a bunch of amazing things. And then Ray Elliott, who is doing a lot of great stuff in energy. So if any of those areas appeal to you, media, construction, energy, like any of that stuff and beyond, because these people have a lot of experience, come and hear about their journeys, their paths to success, but also come contribute to a community conversation where we're inviting the community in addition to Black UVA students, to have a conversation about what mutual economic development looks like. Like, how can we collaborate with the community as the Black UVA community to increase, the economic state of Black Charlottesville and Black UVA. So we're both gaining from the relationship that we have. So that's going to be from 1 to 2:30 on Saturday, April 27th. And then from 2:30 to 4, we will have catering from Run Punch Jamaican restaurant, and we'll be in the multi-purpose room of the Rotunda for like a more informal meet and greet with our panelists. So we don't just want to have the formal aspect and everything serious conversation, like we want to have, a fun aspect to it as well, more loose aspect. So our amazing panelists can interact with UVA students can interact with them, and we can help improve relationships at the end of the day. So
that's a beautiful thing. And Lauren, I'm sure you got something to add to that.
Yeah.
I know he covered it, but but your involvement in it and what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think Cyrell is definitely the one who goes out in the community to meet a lot of people. So I'm really excited to meet, the panelists and just hear more about the history behind UVA and the Black community and, be more in tune with that. And then even to just meet the panelists, I get to meet you today, so I'm excited about that. But and especially Ray Elliott, seeing a Black female entrepreneur and getting her perspective. But I'm excited to just be in the atmosphere of Black entrepreneurs in Charlottesville.
Now, how can people find out more information? Like, do they need to sign up? Do they need to have a ticket? Or where do they go?
Yeah. So you can find tickets. Tickets are free. And like I said, there's going to be free food on both days. and the event is free, and you'll be gaining a lot of tools to be able to hopefully revamp your economic future.
Free food and prizes.
Yeah, free food and prizes. Don't forget, we got both. Yeah. We bring the whole package. But anyways, so you can find more information on our Instagram. That's bees_at_UVA. Our website, bees@uva.org. Okay. And you can acquire tickets. It's in our description on Instagram. So we got day 1 tickets and day 2 tickets. And like I said, both are free, but you acquire those on Eventbrite. Just so we can make sure everybody's accounted for.
Hey, tell me that website one more time. We'll put it in.
Bees, BEES, at UVA.org. Yeah. Right. So you can acquire tickets either from the homepage of the website or the description in the Instagram bio.
Good stuff, man. So proud of y'all. Keep moving forward. But I'm also curious because this makes me think about how there's states now, right? I'm gonna get a little political on y'all too. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check
this coming.
I'm gonna see if y'all been paying attention in political science too. But the hammer that's coming down on states when it comes to all things DEI, right? Like all things that represent anything opposite of white supremacy. Yeah. In my humble opinion. So I'm curious. You all's take being young students. Do you feel that the world is in a space where our educational institutions can approach everybody on the same playing field. Like in regards of not needing what some people may even call special interests, whether that be like the way that you make sure that you have a fair enrollment process when it comes to the diversity, of your student population, right? Or even clubs like this. Like, do you feel like that you all could implement the same things if you were just in a general, eco group with every nationality, or let's say with your white counterparts? Like, so in other words, how much weight do you all put into DEI services?
I think they're incredibly important.
Okay.
And I think all the initiatives that have been aimed at hammering, DEI initiatives down, they're like antithetical to anything that's going to produce like economic growth, cooperation between people. Like, if we just had, everybody together, which beautiful idea. But like, we're culturally different at the end of the day. And we all need our own institutions, but we just got to make sure those institutions are working together. Like, we're not trying to knock down. There's like a Latino empowerment organization on grounds. Like, we're not trying to knock anybody down. We're just doing our things to help our community at the end of the day. But we're like cognizant of the fact that, there are other communities at our school, not our target audience, but at the end of the day, like, if you wanted to come and learn, like, we're not going to bar you from coming to learn.
Gotcha.
So like, we're inclusive with everything we do. We just have a focus that's in our mission statement, and it's unapologetic. Like, we're going to focus on Black people at the end of the day. It's not to focus on people of color. It's not to focus on, the whole community. Like, we're trying to improve the state of the Black community because we have a very unique story here. We're the only group of people that was brought here involuntarily. It's like, we have very unique needs, and they need to be addressed within our community without, outsiders trying to influence what the ultimate end goal is. So.
That's big. And one nugget I'll add to that, and Lauren, I definitely want to hear your insight, is like, don't victim blame. I tell people that all the time. It's like, if the structure, if institutions weren't already oppressive, we wouldn't need to sometimes have our safe spaces.
Right.
Like, the whole point of this is in reaction to, to the situations that we are in.
Exactly.
So then don't turn around and victim blame, saying like, why y'all got to do that? Like, why are you separating yourselves and stuff? Because
y'all made us do it.
You separated us first.
Right. Exactly.
But Lauren,
I was just thinking of like the difference between equality and equity, and like, you can't give everybody equal resources and expect them to succeed on the same level because everybody has different needs. And kind of like Cyril was saying, like, the Black community at UVA has different needs than like the Latino community would have because we all have different histories. And so if we were to just all sit in one room and give people, just broad information, it's like, you're no longer targeting what everybody's need is. And so I think having organizations where we can really hone in on, like, our different cultural experiences and what it is that we truly need as like young Black entrepreneurs or anything trying to learn about financial literacy. I think that's what's so special about being able to, separate and then come back together and be stronger in that aspect.
Beautiful.
And I assume that it's your plan for the organization to operate on campus long after you all have graduated, right?
Yeah. So ideally it operates on grounds at UVA, but is also like a way bigger organization than that. So I want us to seek nonprofit status probably next year before I graduate. And hopefully we have chapters popping up at other schools and potentially have a national branch. Like, that's long-term thinking, but that's ideally where the organization is headed. Not just remaining something that's relegated to UVA's grounds, because I feel like our mission like exceeds that, and it's something that should be national. So.
Yeah, succession plan. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Well, Lauren and Cyril, thank you all. Thank y'all. You feel like we're missing anything? Did we cover all you want the folks to know about bees? You gave the website, so so if there's ways for them to reach out and find more ways to support, I'm sure it's probably on your pages, right?
Yeah. Like I said, if you guys want to check us out on Instagram, it's at bees_@_UVA, and then our website is bees@uva.org. If you want to support us financially, there's a link in our Instagram bio. It's a Give Campus link. The Give Campus website is where you can donate directly to us. Other than that, just make sure you share, like, comment on all our stuff on our social media pages. We also have a LinkedIn page. You can just check us out on there. Put in our name, Black Economic Empowerment Society, and we have a lot of the same stuff that we post on Instagram. But just share it wherever.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you all. Thank you all, Miss Max. You good?
That's it. Enough said. Thank you,
Thank you.
Cyrell,
Thank
Lauren.
you.
All
Good
right.
luck with the organization. Best of
Appreciate
luck on your upcoming event.
Thank you.
Continue success. That's right. This weekend. See y'all there, April 26th and 27th.
Yes.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles.
Max.
I caught you mid-sip, Miss Max. You got to be ready for me. You never know. You never know when
I was
sneak
ready.
up. Back by popular demand. And thank y'all for sticking with us through yet another show. We are in the bottom of the show, the bottom hour, but much, much more info that we're going to give to you, much more conversation. So y'all stay tuned in and keep telling those friends. Y'all know how to reach us online, IMHO Talk Show, whether Facebook, YouTube, what have you, if you want to chime in. Or we streaming worldwide, video as well as, on that 101 Jams, WVAI, or whatever your favorite radio app is. And so, wow, Miss Max, the hits keep coming today.
That's right.
And so, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say another great guest.
That's right. Absolutely, another great guest. She said, she gave me the warning that she doesn't like to self promote, but
Oh, yeah.
but you're here now, so I don't know
I'm
what to
here.
tell you.
I'm
I don't know what to tell you,
Let's go.
Auntie.
I'm ready.
So we are here with Auntie Jess, as she is known by so many. I mean, like, I'm not gonna ask your age. I may be older than you, probably am,
Probably.
but I'm still gonna call you Auntie if that's all right.
I
Auntie
appreciate
Jess.
that. Love. I appreciate it. It's family.
That's right. That's right. So I've been seeing your name in the community. Had the pleasure of being able to cross paths with you and work on a couple of events together, like the Black Love Symposium and Soiree. Yeah, thank you for coming to that. And you are definitely, your reputation precedes you.
Ooh.
And so
we're gonna have church in here.
So I told Ms. Max,
God.
I was, Ms. Max said, I was like, let me send you this flyers. Jessica A. Harris, think we should have her on. She obliged. And, the beautiful thing, but the hardest part is that you're so multi-talented. Like, where do we start?
Yeah.
Like, where do we start?
I don't know.
But Jessica A. Harris, LLC, is the business astrophysicist, science communicator, consultant, and Auntie Jess. Right.
Yeah. I was reading the flyer saying, okay, you do everything.
all the things, just a little bit of everything.
Yes, indeed. But I guess for our listening audience, we are based here in Charlottesville, of course, but we stream worldwide. But for our listening audience that may not be familiar with you, your brand, your work, I guess give us just a little professional background, like what's your stump speech? Like what's your CV, your resume?
Okay, what's my elevator pitch?
Yeah, your elevator pitch for yourself.
That's what I always
go.
teach my students.
Yeah.
So my name is Jessica Harris. My students dearly call me Auntie Jess. Astrophysicist by training, but spent a good portion of my career in my 9 to 5 working at Space Telescope Science Institute. Actually came here to Charlottesville to work at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, then worked at UVA in the engineering school to support the Clark Scholars Program. So in all of that, I always had my hands in a lot of things, but one thing that really stuck with me was working with our college students in any of our summer internship programs. So when I was thinking about branching out and doing my own thing, especially, and I launched in July 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, and I was switching jobs to UVA. I thought a lot about what I wanted to do, and a big part of it was just the mentoring. And so when my students call me Auntie Jess, we just ran with it. So just really interested in science and began just wanting to share that passion with other people. And so when I was at Space Telescope, I talked about the James Webb Space Telescope for years. And I'm really excited that it launched. So that's like a little bit of my CV. That's like the professional side of it. But the personal side is I'm a military brat, lived a little bit of everywhere. And I have 2 little minions. Well, they're not so young anymore. They're 9 and 11. So yeah.
Right.
That's a little bit about me.
Yeah, good stuff. How does it overlap? Because I hear you, right? But I feel like that there's a deeper passion to where like to where you're intentional about about having these different expertises, but but I can imagine that there's a way that you could probably break it down, on why these things combine and they work for you.
Yeah,
Tell us how the stars align.
Yeah.
That's such a good question. I'm still stuck on the my reputation precedes me, just because I had a lot of reasons, but I had just did my Auntie Jess's Corner Wednesday about your brand. And saying that you want your reputation behind closed doors to be better than the reputation outside. Like you want to have a good reputation. So it just hit me. So it's another one of those like God aligned moments. How does it all align? I have to go back just for a little bit and tell a story because I'm a storyteller.
Okay. Yes,
so
indeed.
when I was younger, you asked me what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an educator. My aunties were educators. And then I got into high school. I really didn't like math. I really wasn't even good at math. And we went from Germany to Alaska. And for some reason, they put me in geometry.
Okay.
My freshman year. I didn't know what I was doing, but I worked really, really hard. And at that time, I didn't know it was called a growth mindset, meaning you can grow and learn into something. Because all prior to that, y'all have that smart kid in the class that just knows everything, knows all the facts. I always thought that they just were born like that, or they just had that. And I learned in time, no, actually you can work on it. So I worked really, really hard in math. So I went from not liking it, not really understanding it, to it became one of my greatest strengths, but I put in the work. I was in meeting my teacher before school, meeting her after school. And it was in my Algebra 2 class. We were doing this homework assignment. It just felt like repetitive. Why are we doing this? I'll still forget that teacher, Mary Moran. I was like, why are we doing this? What is the significance of this? She says, because it's building critical and analytical thinking skills. And I was like, oh, it makes you think about math completely different. It's not just about the formulas, not just about the equations, but it allows you to think differently. So still graduated high school in Alaska, went to Grambling State University in Louisiana, HBCU, let's go. And I declared my major to be secondary education with a concentration in math. And the short of that is basically I wanted to be a high school teacher to teach math because I saw, being a military brat, people were coming into our math classes at all different levels, some more advanced, some not advanced. And God bless the teachers that were English teachers, but had to do the math. You're just going to have a different level of passion for it. So really wanted to do that. My freshman year, I had a physics class for non-STEM majors, and I met an amazing mentor, Dr. Tang Zhu. He ended up passing like middle of my 4 years of college, but he pulled me underneath his wings. He gave me my first internship. It was actually at Duke University. And, you know, he was an amazing man. He's been 19 years since he passed, and I still talk about him. So I went from wanting to be a high school teacher, wanting to major in that, and then he convinced me I should major into physics, which I did. So I switched over to physics. And that sounds like, how did you do that? Well, I had a really strong math background. And so it wasn't easy because physics is hard, but that just began this journey that changed my life forever. And so being able to be on the STEM track, I was able to get scholarships because there are not a lot of us in our field. And so there's a lot of scholarships to support Black and brown students within our field. Then led to my last internship before I went into my master's program at Vanderbilt University. And Vanderbilt has a partnership with Fisk University.
Okay.
It's also another HBCU. So I'm a proud graduate of 2 HBCUs. Went there, decided to study. So at physics, at Fisk, they didn't have a astronomy degree, but my research was in astronomy. So I say all that to say that I had in mind to be an educator. I was just at an event this week when they were like, well, what did you want to be when you grow up? And are you still that thing you wanted to be? And I still kept my hand up because I'm still an educator. I still get to teach people. It's just not in a formal classroom. So the heart of it is just wanting to teach students. And then the bigger part of it, when I got exposed to astronomy, I was like, I want to teach us. Like, I want us to be exposed to this. And I love those moments that people have when you're talking about what James Webb can do, or you're sharing some new fact and they have that bing moment. Like, that's what I wanted to keep doing. And so literally, how did I get here? How did the stars align? Like, if I had to give pieces of advice, I would say, be open to your pathway. It's maybe not as straight as we want it to be. And so decided in our field, specifically in physics and astronomy, they tell us a lot to get our PhD, right? It's increasing the number of Black women, increasing the number of Black men to get it. But I was at the end of, kind of getting to the end of writing my thesis. And I was like, this struggle is real. I don't want to get a PhD and then I'm not using my degree because I'm so beat up. I'm so all the things. And then it's like a whole different hustle. If you want to stay in academia, you have to write all these grants. I was like, that's not my life. It was a huge turning point because, again, my whole career was like, you got to get a PhD, you got to get a PhD. But I took a leap of faith. So when I graduated in May, I had no job prospects other than an internship at Space Telescope. Went to Space Telescope, had an amazing summer experience. 2 weeks before the program ended, my future boss said, hey, we want you to come back for a month and work with us. I was like, okay. So took a month break, came back in around November, did the month with her. And then I got onto another project. So was on soft money for 9 months, applied for a position there. And I made it to like the final rounds. My boss would be my future boss. She brought me in and she was like, Jessica, you didn't get the position, but I want to tell you directly. I was bummed. I'm like, man, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I was kind of betting on this. But she was like, but there's something about a but. She said, but you did so good. We don't want to lose you. We're going to create a position for you.
Okay. Look at God.
Yeah.
Won't he will? So they created a position for me, and the role was primarily focused on doing outreach with James Webb. So spent 7 years talking about James Webb Space Telescope.
Wow.
And so again, just following my passions, really, really wanting to reach to us. And throughout that process, so I came in as an intern over this summer program. And then before I left, I was the director of that program for 2 years.
Mm.
So like full circle moments, but just the journey wasn't clear. I didn't have a pathway. Like I said, 2 weeks before the program ended, like I'm talking with my parents, like, well, you can come back. You can be here with your baby sister. I was like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't get 2 degrees to come back home. And there's nothing wrong with going back home. I'm not shading nobody, just my life. But it was a lot of faith. And so just the passion for wanting to share science was over that. And then the experiences that I had in my research opportunities, I didn't want other students to feel that too. And so being able to be over in a program and really getting to guide it, really getting to say like, this is what we're going to do. I changed the program significantly because I just wanted it to be equitable to male and female. Because prior to that, it had been a lot of white males.
Right.
That's just how our field is. It's predominantly white, male, and then now more women. And so I'm thinking like, that's a good thing, right? Just making it equal. I'm not even talking about like ethnicity at this point. I'm just saying, let's make it as equal male, female, or a male identifying, female identifying. Right. So we put out the offers equally. And of course, people maybe turn things down, and it ended up being more females than males. The first time this program had been around for 26 years.
Right.
The first time that this program had ever been more female than male.
So it was just a matter of opportunity.
It was,
then, right?
but it was about being intentional. See, I was intentionally just wanting to make the playing field even. So you think this is a great thing? Like the Institute was about to put a press release together, and then somebody in one of those review board meetings or whatever it was like, well, if my son applied to this, and you can imagine his color of his skin, if he applied, he wouldn't get in. I don't see the problem. I don't really see the problem. But I had to defend how I ended up getting that. And so that leads into the equity part of this, the diversity, equity, inclusion part of this, because I want to make the field more of us, but not just more of us to be in another toxic environment, more of us to really shift it because our brilliance is needed. Absolutely. And so that's how that DEI came into play, always being the only Black woman in the room, experiencing the things that I'm experiencing and getting feedback like, well, you're bringing this up, but no one else brought this up to us. Well, you've never had another Black female or male in this role. So yeah, my white colleagues are not experiencing what I'm experiencing. And so that is like that heart and passion. So the educator in me wanting to support students, wanting to change the field. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I was here at NRAO, there was a period of time I was like, I'm going to just leave the field altogether. Like I'm tired of pushing the system. The system doesn't want to change. Like I just want to work at like a factory job. Just let me do something that's really repetitive. I only got to use a whole lot of thoughts. And prayed about it. And what kept coming back is like, what's the thing you're most passionate about? I was like, it's students. And so that's the thing I can directly impact. I can directly impact students right now. I can help them with their elevator pitches. I can help them with not just surviving in our field, but thriving in our field and giving them chess moves, right? Because you're in this, but you need to know what's not in the textbooks. You need to know how to play it. And so that's when I focused on that and stopped trying to change the whole system. I'm like, I can fix this one little piece of my system through mentoring. And so that's how the passions aligned.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know, what's interesting, Max, is that, so Jessica, you, I don't know if you were listening in before you came on the air with us, but that same conversation was just happening. So, you know, so that synergy is crazy of how you have a passion for something, but sometimes the elements that are against you kind of, you know, wear you down. And you got to remember that, wait a minute though, like this is my calling, this is my passion. And it may be thankless sometimes, but I'm in a position and I have the wherewithal to be able to, you know, to be a change maker.
For sure.
Like, so that's just so important. I'm curious, do you mentor outside of your field? Because I can imagine someone, you know, with your repertoire would have people from everywhere, every study, right, would be like, oh, can you can I shadow you?
I appreciate that. Actually, I do. My godmom, Coach Robbie Cage, she has a coaching program, and we work with small business owners in her Coach Robbie program. So we're in a program right now for 6 months, and so that's kind of exposure outside of just my direct field. So yeah, I'm specifically niched down. You know, when you create a business, you want to have a specific niche to your audience, and so it's to Black, mainly undergraduate students, but also professionals in our field. But yeah, like I'm a certified coach in what I do. And so I love to be able to share that. One thing I didn't mention in my resume is that I'm also really passionate about mental health. And so we can't talk about us being in this field or just day to day, right? That's that universal care of ourselves. And so I became an adult mental health first aid instructor because I wanted to be able to go back to our communities and remove the stigma. We don't talk enough about our mental health. And, you know, we were talking about God and how he does things, and I'm a firm believer in him and I love him. I believe he brought therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists and all of the doctors that we have for a reason. So you need to do God and some therapy or God and some medicine. And so just wanting to trade, just again, breaking down the stigmas and wanting to change the system. And you mentioned about, you know, being an influencer and wanting to make change and it being thankless. It is. And I say to people all the time, I want people to leave out of my presence and remember how I feel, because Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so I don't do this for any recognition. So I have a hard time talking about myself, but I know that what I'm doing is trailblazing. But if you had told me to do this and it to be trail, I would have never done it. I'm just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so when I launched my business, I became more and more convicted of that. Like, this is my lane. This is what I've been put on earth to do. And I'm going to be passionate about it. So if I get no accolades, that's fine. But I want to just change the system. And I'm not saying I don't want accolades, because I do have some. But I mean, that's important for your reputation, for people wanting to work with you. Like, all of that is great. But I want when I die that that the field was somehow changed because of Auntie Jess being in it. So that was a long way of answering your question.
That's beautiful though. But that term, I don't know if you heard of it, Max, but never heard it mentioned as mental health first aid, and you're a mental health first aid instructor. So when you put mental health with first aid, is there something I'm missing there, or is that just mental health, or is that a particular initiative?
Yeah, it's a particular initiative with the National Council of Well-being, I believe. But it's a national program. The program initially started in Australia and then came over here to the States. And so think about being an adult mental health first aider, like you think about a first responder. If you call the police or you call the fire department, like they're the first responders to something happening. So this is when you're mental health first aider, we're able to recognize these changes with mental health challenges or substance use challenges with the people we're most familiar with, right? And so if you guys are partnering with each other, and Max, you come in one day, you're just different, right? You're maybe a little bit more hopeless, like the way you're like you just have shifted. Charles is gonna be able to notice it, right? And so just bringing awareness. So that's what it is. Like, we're mental health first aiders to support our communities, support our families. So if people are struggling, we're not clinicians. But I have enough resources to get you to someone that needs help, and being able to recognize, like, hey, like, this is happening. I'll never forget being at a conference. It was here, the National Society of Black Physicists. They had their first conference after COVID here in Charlottesville, which was amazing. And there was a student in crisis. And I'm grateful that I had that training, because she's in the bathroom, and like everything I was trying to do to get her to calm down, she wasn't, which was like, okay, all right, she's not in just an early stage. She's in a little bit more of a crisis situation. And just being able to listen to her, being able to hear what she was saying and say, like, you know what, we need to get her some supports. And so that's what it is. So it is a national program, and I do offer courses. I try to do it twice a month. And then next month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'll be doing some new things for that.
I actually read that too, but in my mind, I try to make them separate things because I had never heard of it before.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Mental Health Awareness Month. We're gonna have some great guests on for that too, Max. Yeah, we got some. And of course, you're welcome in any time as well. Just let us know.
Please.
But we are joined by Jessica A. Harris. She is an educator amongst many things. And so when it comes to your mission of inspiring and empowering, like I can imagine that you have to get pretty vocal when it comes to like things DEI, related. I guess, how do you consult people nowadays when we see the attack on DEI, and when we have elected representatives who don't, like they don't feel like that any of that's necessary. And of course, we know why there's a power structure that wants to kind of keep a control over things, right? But I'm curious, like, in your work, like how much you're faced with that, with having to defend it, or like are you concerned with not even being able to to be represented in that space, like because of new state laws and regulations?
guess I have to be careful how to respond, but
Mhm.
I'm not worried about it. I think that people have to be creative to work around the system.
Mhm.
It's just like anything else. I understand there's consequences, but I encourage people to still do the work. We just got to do it differently.
Yeah.
Maybe we can't call it DI initiatives, but we still have to do the work to further us. And so when it comes to consulting, I just had a client for a consulting call. And one of the things I always ask them is, what is the readiness of your organization to take this on? Because I personally do not have the emotional bandwidth nor mental bandwidth to get people to understand why DI is needed. That's not me.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna send you to someone else or someone other my but I don't have time to explain to you why this is needed. I've been in that battle for a long time, and I've learned like some people you just can't teach, but that's not my ministry. My ministry is when you're ready to do the work, let's come together, because I do like working with people in the very beginning of their programs, very beginning of they're trying to shift things in their organization. They're like, we just don't know what to do. We know we need to do something, but we don't know what to do. And so, I believe we just have to be creative of what it looks like. And maybe we can't call it the terms we've been calling it, but the work is still the work.
Yeah,
and we have to keep this fight up. We can't give up. And it's unfortunate that our politicians are making huge changes to put us back. It's mind blowing.
So let's talk about the worthwhile of diversity training, because I am one of those people who believe that, you can teach something no different than you can teach English or math, but it all depends on whether or not there's buy-in, whether or not the person has the capacity to be able to have a change of heart, or at least a change of mind, to be able to function in the space that you're trying to teach them. Based on your response, I'm assuming you think that we should continue with DEI trainings, and they are needed and necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hands down. I think it's needed. I think maybe what we call it may be different, but it's absolutely needed. You're always going to have someone in the room. I have it often when I'm giving presentations who they just don't get it. And you can tell they don't get it because of the questions that they ask me, but I'm not talking to them. I wasn't brought in for them. I was brought in by the organization. And so I believe it's repetitive, right? This thing about DI, it's not a one-time thing. I like to think about the work that I do as a fire starter to the organizations that I'm in with. That's what I'm asking, like their readiness. What are y'all going to do after I leave? What are the continuing conversations that y'all are going to have related to this? But the work must continue.
Yeah.
I think about how I care about the DI work that I do. Simply put, is I want to get people out of their intellectual brain into their heart. When I was at NRAO,
and in corporate, ain't everybody trying to get in their heart?
No, they're not trying to get in their heart, but that's where the change happens. DI is not just an initiative an organization does; it's your personal. So when I was at NRAO, we had, it's during the midst of the pandemic, everything's shut down. We're trying to have different meetings that bring people together, and one was related to anti-racism. And one of my colleagues were talking like, are these resources in the classroom? Probably. I mean, I could send you a lot of things you could read, but let me tell you, it's as simple as this. I'm raising a black young boy, and I'm raising a black young girl. Raise your children in a way they don't kill mine.
Yeah.
I mean, how much data do I need to give you?
Right.
But no, it's really that simple. And when I said it, it still gives me chills saying it now, because it was the first time I was like, remove all the BS, remove all the things. Like, that's really what it breaks down to. It's your heart posture. And so with DI work, it's, we can have initiatives, but if your heart doesn't want to change and you keep wanting to have these micro passive aggressive language that you're using, you don't want to bring people in that look different than you, like the system's going to continue to be the same. And so I use my power where I can to suggest people like me to be in the room, or the work that I did with the Human Rights Commission. It's like, it's here in Charlottesville, but I know that it made an impact, even if I couldn't do it in an organization. So I believe like the work must continue. We just have to continue to be relentless with it and continue to touch the hearts of people. But I say all the time, like, I can give you all the data and all of that's great. I think maybe people need it, but really, like, get out of your head. It's really not that complicated, but we make it complicated, especially as scientists. We want to have all the data. We want to have all the research. All right, we done this for 50 plus years. The data hasn't changed.
Right.
So what are we going to do differently?
Right.
And the power structures have to change. I think about the brilliance that's being missed because we're pushed out of our fields. We're constantly beat down. We're in toxic environments. So imagine the discoveries, imagine the inventions that are not happening because we're not there. So think about it like that. If you don't want to get too much in the racial, like think about the technology that's being missed because the brilliance that's needed to be in the room has been pushed out.
Right.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah, thank you for that.
Right.
Thank you for that. So let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we can come back for the next half of this conversation, deep conversation. So yes, don't forget IMHO Talk Show online if you want to send those questions and those comments. But it's Sir Charles' Miss Max, and we are joined by none other than Jessica A. Harris, aka Auntie Jess. And so we'll be right back. IMHO Talk Show.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I to the ISM, H to the Izzo Talk Show. In other words, hashtag IMHO Talk Show. When you want to find us online, you want to chime into this conversation, if you want to run it back, all those good things readily available. And thank y'all for staying tuned, sticking with us, because you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. And I think that you see why, because we are joined by Jessica A. Harris, astrophysicist, science communicator, consultant, or most of all, Auntie Jess. Yeah. So when we went to break, we left off the conversation, talking about DEI, the need thereof, and the training thereof. And so to follow up on that, and I think Max was alluding to it as well, Jessica, is that like I have the perspective to where I feel like that if there's elements to a space, right? Like whether it's classroom or whether it's office, whatever the case is, to where you have a diverse staff, or there's diversity. There's elements I believe like that can be taught and trained and improved upon. But I would hope that we more so weed out or hire those who actually has the heart for it, because like it's just hard for me to believe that someone who doesn't have the heart, as I heard y'all mention that term a few minutes ago, it's hard for me to believe that they can be taught anything else. You know what I mean? Like I feel like your heart is your heart. I can pretend to keep my job, but I feel like it should even be a prerequisite that I have a level of cultural understanding and sensitivity. Like, what's your thoughts about that?
I mean, if you could implement that, we'd be millionaires. Especially in our field, they don't care about the heart. They care about them papers. They care about the publishing, and there's shifts, right? Where there's talks in our community, don't just give people the money, tie their diversity efforts to the money, right? It always goes back to money. And so, Max, to your question about what do you do with the people that don't care, talk to them about the money.
Yeah.
The I don't know the numbers, and every industry will be different, but you're missing out on money. So one of the great examples I love to give is I don't remember what car company it was, but when they were doing test dummies, they kept doing it with a certain, like a build of a white male. And there was a woman, just a woman. I don't know her ethnicity, but she said, this isn't accounting for women who are pregnant. The way that belt is going across your belly, you and I, we have had kids. I remember that being pregnant, that belt doesn't hit right. And so just that perspective of having a woman in the room, because a man may not think of, oh, I'm pregnant, what to do. Like, just that shift and change. And so there's so many things missed out. I wish we could do things based on the heart of it. Man, that's a powerful statement. We were just saying on break that DEI efforts are most effective when they're from the top down. So shout outs to the director of NRAO, Tony Beasley. He has the heart for it. And he's being taught by people he has a good counsel to say, hey, we need to do this thing. And he's supporting of it. So I wish we could do that. And I wish that we had more people pushing that. But the dynamic in physics and astronomy is that most of the people that have power are white male or white female, and they don't see that. They don't, I wouldn't say they don't care, but you have that performative.
And Charles mentioned just hiring people who do, I guess, have the heart for diversity and cultural sensitivity in the workspace. But so Charles also said, like, we want to change the heart of these people. And my thoughts were, are we okay with accepting them faking it at least from 9 to 5?
No, we're not.
Are we? I mean, let's talk about,
but I think
let's think about what we can realistically do.
Yeah.
If I can work with somebody who, at least between the hours that I am working with you, can sincerely be devoted to cultural sensitivity in that time frame, am I okay with that? Can I live with that?
Can you?
There's some implications outside of the workspace, right? But at least for the time frame that we are sharing a cubicle, maybe.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I think that's what we have.
That's a good question.
I think we already have that, and I think like that's the push, right, for a deeper dive into what DEI represents, right? Because of course, for the history, it's been black and white a lot of times, but now we realize like that there's so much more, post affirmative action, right? That now people realize that needs to go into representation, whether sexuality, ethnicity, whatever the case is, like respecting all those things. And I feel like that's like, so we're sort of in a conundrum, in my opinion, of we still have a control of power that feels like, if I embrace too much DEI, that means I have to relinquish some of my power because all these qualified people going to come up in there.
That's the thing.
It's not to us.
But that's the thing
we
have to teach a lot in DEI work. So I do this bead activity that shows all the different privileges we have. And no matter how many times I've done this workshop, so it's 7 different categories. You read the statement. If the statement resonates with you, take a bead. And so there's 7 different privileges in 7 or 8 statements on each one, but no one has never walked away with 0 beads, meaning we all have a level of privilege. And so getting to your point of, we have to sometimes teach those in power. You giving me power doesn't take from your power. So let me give you an example. I have an amazing ally here. We work together at NRAO. We were on the Human Rights Commission together. When I tell you she's an amazing ally, she puts me in position. She uses her power to post me on her page. If she's in a room and they're looking for someone to talk, she's always suggesting me. Like, that doesn't take away from her power. When we were doing presentations, there was this huge conference, the Inclusive Astronomy 2 conference, which is a really, really big deal for us in our field. It was in Baltimore. She applied to speak. She gave an intro and then she allowed me to do the rest. Because she's like, I'm pretty established in my field, but you're still building your reputation. Like, that doesn't take away from her power. She's the still number 1 author on that thing. But when it came down to presenting, she did the intro and then she handed it to me. That doesn't take anything away from her, but that's the struggle. is people think if I put you in the room, somehow it's taken away from me. And I've had a lot of experiences where my colleagues have stepped over me to get into position, but that's not how I am. But that's a really good question about the 9 to 5 thing. That's why I said it's out of your head into your heart, because people can only fake that 9 to 5 if they're doing it for so long. So it's not really sustainable. And so I believe this work has to really come from the heart. I know I keep saying that, and it's like, well, how do you do that? But part of why I'm in my own business, which is not easy, but it's worth it, is because I want to fully be authentic the way I show up.
Yeah.
I don't have to take every contract that comes to me, but I can't be fake with you. I don't work with people that I don't trust.
Yeah.
Period. And it's hard to do that in a 9 to 5 when Jane Doe constantly being a Karen to me. But we got to suck it up. And them white tears, damaging. I don't really care about your white tears. I mean, I do. I care about your feelings, but you've hurt me. Actually, you were racist to me, and I'm just bringing it up, but now your feelings hurt. I don't care about your feelings, but I have a strong level of emotional intelligence. And one of my organizations, like, that very thing was attacked. Like, I'm a very emotionally in tune, but they told me I need to take an emotional intelligence class. You know what? If I have to take an emotional intelligence class, we all need to take an emotional intelligence class. And part of that was because they didn't think that I was seeing the discomfort of my white colleagues. No, I see it, but I don't care because they don't care about my discomfort on a 9 to 5 basis.
I get you. And just to be clear, I'd much rather change the person than just to have the person fake it. But for the sake of conversation, throwing some stuff out.
Yeah, and I guess my point is like I mean, people can change, of course. I'm not like, I don't mean to sound so hardline about it. But at the same time, like, I feel like that should be part of employee evaluation of like, are you meeting these marks, or are you still getting complaints about, like, about your insensitivities, so to speak? You know what I mean?
And some people that is, like some organizations, especially faculty roles, you have to submit a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. At some of my organizations, like, that has been part of your performance, a yearly performance. Like, what are you doing to bring to? So again, but it goes back to the top down. If I'm just an employee and I'm not seeing that, it's really hard to make change. But if the top down is saying this is something, that's why shout out to Tony Beasley, because he cared for it being from the top down. He doesn't want it just to be performative, but he only has so much power. But the power that he has, he'll yield it. And all that we're talking about, I want to go back to why I almost left the field, because this weightiness is heavy. You can only change so much.
Yeah.
You can only change so much. So that's why I specifically focus on, like, I want to do mental health. I want to support students, and I want to work with organizations that want to do the change. Because if I think about all of this and changing hearts and peoples and organizations, like, of course I want to do that, but it's too much work. And I have to just focus in on, like, my lane, but it's a lot, and it can feel really depressing. And one of the things that used to burden me so much was when others are not making the change, people are suffering.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
We're suffering out here.
Yeah.
Like, I think about, I love science, but I was willing to walk away from it. I love it. I love talking about science. I get excited to talking about JWST. Like, I could talk about it for a very long periods of time, but I think about students that, like, I mentor students at Stanford, and they're like 10th, 11th grade, and they're getting burnt out being at PWI, so primarily white institutions. And I'm like, this is crazy. We can't even enjoy the very thing we came here to do because we're experiencing racism. We're experiencing sexism. We're experiencing people constantly questioning our capabilities scientifically. And then you wonder why we leave. And I've had, white colleagues say, well, maybe they just didn't have enough devotion. Maybe they just didn't want to put enough work in. No. I guarantee you that's not it. And so I was able to present internationally. My first international speaking engagement was last year in Prague. And I did this visual. It was the first time doing it, where I was like asking people to give me something of yours, like whatever it may be, trying to indicate that, like, I'm carrying someone's coat, I'm carrying someone's book bag. Someone actually gave me their passport, so it wasn't heavy, but something personal. Like, I'm carrying all these things, and you're still expecting me to be at the same rate that you are. It's not fair.
Not at all.
But when you talk about I'm not dedicated enough, well, you know what? You're not experiencing this thing every single day, every time that you show up in the office. And the thing is, Maxine, and I know, Charles, you can relate. We're not just experiencing it in our 9 to 5. We're experiencing when we're going to the grocery store. We're experiencing it traveling. It's always, I don't get it as much now, maybe
I
because I
feel you,
have
though.
something that tells them not to do it. But I used to for a long time when I was traveling. It was a certain type of person, it was always female mostly. Anytime I was talking to them, would always say, you're so articulate.
Know what that means?
We know what that means. Because the opposite is that she thought I wasn't so articulate.
Yeah.
So
That weight
again,
is
the
real.
burden, it's not that I'm not passionate enough for it. And that's what I'm saying. We're missing out on technological advances or pushings in our field because we don't want to be in a toxic, no one wants to be in a toxic
Right.
workplace environment.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's this famous
Spot on.
quote, I'm gonna mess it up, but essentially says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you don't blame the soil, or you don't blame the flower, you blame the soil.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about. The
Facts.
soil
Exactly.
is corrupt, but you still asking me as a flower to change.
Say so.
I'm in the soil though.
Say
That's
so.
not conducive for me to
Yes, indeed.
try not to go in.
Something else that I wanted. We're running short on time.
Yeah.
Something else that I
Were
was
you gonna
hoping.
switch gears or I had a DEI question though.
Oh no, I was. So go ahead.
Yeah. So just real quick because I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I also see a conflict between, and not as necessarily new, but since this is our generation that we're in, you know, we're dealing with it, and we read things in history about the conflict between even, let's narrow it down to Black people, right? So the DEI within between Black men and Black women.
Yeah.
Like that's big. That's big. And you know, I want your general thoughts on it about like ways we could deal with that. Because the main thing that I see is, and again, like a lot of times groups, you know, that fight for equality, regardless of what label is on that group, you know, a lot of times they sometimes overcorrect for the simple fact of, if you've been oppressed or been ignored for so long, then like at some point you're like, I'm gonna kick in this door. And then sometimes that hurts our trust because we like, well, what took you so long to come help? You know what I mean? And I'm seeing that amongst even Black men and Black women, to where it's almost like we put each other against each other. And I mean, really, we can go back to even the foundation of this country, right? We can go back to how we were purposely meant to dislike each other, and you know what I mean? Like to be degraded in front of each other. So I mean, like, so we could say that it's generational trauma.
It is.
But I'm curious your thoughts on.
And like,
Yeah.
we don't have enough time to
We gotta
unpack my
have you
thoughts
back
on
then.
that. Like, whew, that's a whole another topic for another day. But I would say my general thoughts is true, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about D&I, a lot of times talking about white to Black or white to other ethnicities. But I think you're correct. We don't talk enough about Black to Black. Like there's some that I have met many a times in my career. You would say they've had to assimilate, meaning they've had to buy into the white toxic culture, and they're us. You're like, well, how can you do that? Well, because it's benefiting you to be like that. And I've had personal statements said to me that I may not get it because I'm light skinned, because color isn't part of it. Like, oh, they see you more white to them. That's why you're able to be in those rooms than a dark skinned person. And I'm not negating my dark skinned brothers and sisters' experiences. And what I just try to add to the conversation, because it's not taking away from their experience. What I'm adding is I'm still experiencing the same thing you're experiencing, sis and brother. So what are we talking about really though? Because I'm really not getting in the favoritism that you think that I'm getting just based on my color, because that's actually not happening. So yes, I'm biracial. I'm white, actually white German and Black, but I actually stopped saying I was biracial, not because I don't want to identify with my culture where I'm from, because I'm experiencing and living in the world as a Black woman. When people see me, regardless of how light my melanin is, my skin, they're still seeing a Black woman. They're not seeing my whiteness, maybe, but they're not seeing that when I'm the only one in the room. But you were about to say something.
Yeah.
Thank you for
So you love science, you're an astrophysicist, but you've also mentioned God several times throughout this conversation. And I wondered how all of that balances when we're dealing with what science says or proves, and then a divine being. And what role that played in creating anything, if at all, and just having to traverse that throughout your.
We definitely do. So the one thing I say about our field is like, when you're a Christian in the field, it's like hush hush. Like when you find out someone else is a Christian, you're like, oh man, that's amazing. But we don't talk about it because our field is predominantly like agnostic or atheist in some way. But something I love to say about it is this is how I personally feel. God hadn't personally told me this, but I think he's a humorous God, and this is just my own sanctified imagination about him. I
like
feel
that.
he's created all of these things,
Mhm.
and as scientists, we're trying to understand it.
Mhm.
And to him, it's like
Like that.
comical,
Mhm.
but not because he
Yeah.
doesn't want us to figure it out, but it's like, I'm gonna give you divine ideas. Like,
Mhm.
so any groundbreaking push in our field, like the Einsteins of our world, the all the things, right? I believe they are God inspired. I don't care what no one else is say,
Mhm.
because they mention it some way or the other
Mhm.
about a divine being. And to me, it's all connected. The wonders of the universe.
Yeah,
When you think
yeah.
about, I'm trying not to go in too hard in praise.
Mhm.
But when you think about the earth where we are,
Mhm.
we're just in enough position to not be too close to the sun so we burn up, but not too far away so we're too cold.
Mhm.
Like we're in this perfect dynamic with the moon and the like of all the places in the world. And so we're discovering with James Webb and Hubble and all these other observatories, there's so many other planets and solar systems, but why is it we
Mhm.
on this earth were chosen?
Mhm.
So yeah, I have lots of thoughts on it, but the general of it is, to me, my faith has never discouraged me from the science of it.
Okay.
It actually encourages, like putting language to something divine that God
Mhm.
created. And I
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful
Mhm.
thing. So that's
Mhm.
how I tap into it.
Is
Love
that
it,
a
love it.
growing thought amongst people in your industry?
I think it's a
Because I hear
mixture.
that it is, but I don't know if it really
I
is.
think it's like that hush hush, like I said. You know, people are not as vocal about their
Mhm.
Christianity or faith, but
Mhm.
I think everyone has their own perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Jessica, we're gonna have you
I
back.
know.
No,
Like,
let's
We-
go. It's so many things.
Yeah, we are up against it. And, you know, and we knew this was gonna happen too. So, you know, so I guess I should have allotted more time.
It's
But
okay.
you know, but maybe it's an excuse to have you back. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I would love to be back. Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you for
indeed.
having me.
Absolutely. But you know, but as we go, just final word on how folks can reach out to you, learn more about your work, or if they want to, utilize your services.
Yes, so you can reach out to me at jessicaaharris.com on social media, Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me at Love Auntie Jess, LOVEAUNTIEJESS, and on Facebook it's Auntie Jess Love. So follow me or go to my website. All that information is there, jessicaaharris.com.
All right, love it, love it. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
thank you.
All right. You good, Max?
I'm good.
All right, be blessed, family.
Take care.